Hey, what's up folks, how's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well, and in this video we're going to be doing a review of the WRT 1900ACS. Now last year I had the opportunity to review the original WRT 1900AC, and they've pretty much just added an S at the end and they've cloned the external design. So there's really not a lot of differences between the two when you take a look at it from face value. But internally the WRT 1900ACS is completely redesigned. It has a whole different new architecture and a couple of other things that you guys should know about if you're interested in perhaps upgrading to this router, if you haven't already gone for an AC router at this point, or perhaps you were debating against getting the standard 1900 AC versus the S model. So this is a perfect video for you, so let's get right into this full review. Now the core architecture of the new WRT 1900 ACS is very similar to the previous generation router. So it's still a tri-stream AC router, giving you the capability to do up to 1.3 gigabits per second on the 5 gigahertz bandwidth and about 600 megabits per second on the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth. Now really the essential difference between this new router is the internal specification, and that's specifically regarding the upgrade in terms of the clock speed on the main processor. We're still using a dual core processor, but now it's clocked about 1.6 gigahertz opposed to the 1900 AC's 1.2 gigahertz, and we also have double the amount of RAM of 512 megabytes of RAM versus the old router at 256 megabytes. Now in addition to this S model also stands for kind of silent because it doesn't have a fan anymore like the original, so it's definitely quieter in terms of its operation. It's almost near silent. Although the original router wasn't that loud to begin with, it's still kind of nice to have a router that's on all the time that you're never going to hear. However, on the same note, I am concerned about the cooling performance because I did notice that the router, after a couple of days of usage, tended to get a little bit warm, certainly not hot, but I'm wondering how this fanless design and passively cooled system will fare up after years of usage. So hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing goes wrong. Now the new router still employs that classic retro design inspired by the original Linksys WRT 54G, and I've seen that some people really like this design, others are not too fond of it. Me personally, I love the overall look of it. I think it looks very sleek while paying homage to the original 54G. Now taking a look at the ports and connectivity options we have on the new ACS router, you still have your 4 conventional outgoing gigabit Ethernet LAN ports. You also do have a USB 3.0 connection as well as eSATA / a USB 2.0 port, and you can actually hook up 2 different external storage solutions to the USB 3 and USB 2 or eSATA and use them at the same time without having any kind of interference because the router is powerful enough to do so. Now the setup for this router is really simple and straightforward. It's pretty much plug and play in terms of most regards. You have tons of different encryption options, networking configurations, as well as several different ways to distribute and organize all your media and data that's connected into the router. There's even a remote management app available for both iOS and Android, so you can check upon your router settings using your smartphone or tablet, which is kind of handy. Now let's get into the main performance differences between the new 1900 ACS and the original. Now what I basically did in order to test the wireless performance on the 5 gigahertz bandwidth is that I measured the data throughput at 3 different locations. The first location was just in the same room in the office at just 10 feet away from the router. The second location was about 50 feet away through several different walls. And the third location was about 60 feet away on the upper floor above the router. And here, the results over here, basically the new ACS is faster by a slight margin compared to the original 1900 AC. Basically at the first location, just 10 feet away, we got a recorded result of about 587 megabits per second versus 562 megabits per second on the older router. And 50 feet away from that location, we got about 345 megabits per second versus about 322 on the older generation router. And one floor above, 60 feet away, we got about 319 megabits per second on the ACS and about 301 on the older router. Now, in addition to that, I was also curious on how fast the USB 3.0 performance was in terms of read and write speed. So I basically transferred an 8 gigabyte file on the new ACS, and I got about 92 megabytes per second and about 78 megabytes per second in terms of its read performance. And that's definitely very impressive and certainly slightly faster than the original WRT 1900 AC, which scored marginally lower scores than the ACS. Now really the new WRT 1900 ACS is really designed for somebody that really wants impeccable wireless data transfer transferring speeds at the 5 gigahertz band, and somebody that has fast internet to begin with. If you don't have a certain level of broadband connection, you're really not going to get the benefit of the new 1900 ACS, and you're better off going with a cheaper router, because this is certainly not an inexpensive router by most means. But really, other than that, guys, that's really it. Now, if you're coming from a router that doesn't have dual band configuration, doesn't even have AC, then the original 1900 AC is a fantastic solution, excellent for most people and even small business applications. But if you are looking for that extra leg up in terms of internal performance, certainly there's a benefit on what the S model offers opposed to the standard model. So for those of you guys that want the best of the best router, looks like the Linksys have kind of topped themselves again with the WRT 1900 ACS. And generally, if you want some more information about both these two routers, check out the link in the description where you find everything you need. But for this video, that's really it. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and we'll see you later. Take care.